people in this look at notes?
Oh, yeah.
Because I really like writing them.
Oh, my God. Now that I did see. Jeez.
There's like loads of them.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Jeff Banks online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at jeffbanks.bet.
Welcome to the Final Furlong podcast. I'm Emmet Kennedy, joined by top pundit, explosive opinions, Sarah Lynam. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Emmet. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you back on as we dig into really good weekend's racing. One that was good for Aidan O'Brien, good for us as well. There was loads of winners put up on the show by Andy, by Peter Michael. Peter's back on the show this week as well, so no pressure on the boys to keep the good run of form going. We'll start though with a Group 1 win for Ger Lyons. This is a horse that Peter was really, really confident about, Babouche. One of the reasons he was so confident is he just thought she was way too big a price given the level of ability that she'd shown previously. And I know Ger Lyons was very, very bullish about this horse going into the race, Sarah, but the Aidan O'Brien team sounded pretty confident about Whistlejacket, and given the fact that he'd been back to form last time out, has always been sent off favourite for his races, and that his full brother absolutely destroyed the opposition in this race 2 years ago, I didn't see this one playing out the way it did, but my goodness, Babouche was very, very good.
Yeah, I think confidence kind of whittled away in the morning of the race because Whistlejacket went on the drift a bit, and there had been word that they weren't so confident about him. I just heard, in racing circles, which I put down to the ground. It was drying all the time. The rain that was forecast during the week hadn't come. And I think he won the first flyer, was it, on soft? And then his win in Newmarket, I think that was good to soft that day. So it was, I think by the time racing went off, it had changed from good to firm in places to good to firm good in places. And with the win they have in the career there, it was going to be very, very quick. But the filly won really well. I think it's the first filly in 12 years to have won the Phoenix Stakes. Porta Fortuna was second in it last year, and there were other fillies like Aidan O'Brien had one, and Fozzie Stacca won recently that were second in it. But she won it quite easily, I thought, in the end.
Yes, she did. Given the fact that she's full to Zorinsk and half to Sir Michael Stout's Derevo, who was able to get 10 furlongs, as we look towards her for next season, do you see her developing into a classic contender?
I would hope that they stay and let her be a sprinter for now and see how she goes. And I think she's a filly I would like to aim at the Commonwealth Cup. She shows plenty of boot. I mean, they were licking along in that race. They were going 10-second furlongs in the middle of the race. Too quick for the English Raider. Also, Rudy's Apple was off his feet. And, Arizona Blaze was taking on Whistlejacket up front. They kind of cut their throats a wee bit. But even though they weren't comfortable, she looked very comfortable at that pace. And she's got so much natural speed. I think it would be a mistake to step her up too soon. Like Zorinsk, I know she won a Guineas Trial, I think, over a mile, but I thought her best trip was 7 furlongs. She won the Brownstown, did she? And she also won the Minstrel Stakes over 7, and she had a little bit of boot. I think they probably could have dropped her back to 6 as well. I like those horses who are good over 7. You have opportunities to step back to 6, a stiff 6, or set them up to a mile. Only they know, but she did disappoint at the end of the season over a mile. I thought she would have been an interesting filly if they travelled her a bit more. There's some good 7 furlong races abroad, like in York or the likes of that. But back to Babouche, she just has so much speed, and I think maybe sometimes snobbery steps in when you're dealing with this caliber of horse, and in those colours as well. They're big owners. They'd be aiming for classic success, but I think if she has gears, you should use it to her best advantage. Talking about pedigree, I actually think that Whistlejacket isn't a natural sprinter. I know he's by no name ever, but he's out of a Bearing mare, and he's a chestnut like she was. She won over 10 furlongs, and Bearing was chestnut as well. And I think he's more taking after the dam side of the family, just looking at him like colour wise. It's a family with plenty of middle distance success. I think his 4th dam is All Along We Won the Arc. And just to look at him physically, he doesn't look like a sprinter. He's very leggy. He's quite straight behind. He just wouldn't strike me as a natural sprinter. And it'd be interesting to see what he does maybe going up on trip.
Really intrigued by him. I kind of got the feeling that he might do a bit of a Blackbeard and recover later in the season and still win a Group 1.
What I find odd is Aidan is often a trainer who likes to step up horses to make them stay further, see how far they can get. He likes to aim at the national stakes races like that. And it's odd with maybe his colts just aren't as good as the fillies, that he wanted to turn this horse into a sprinter. I don't think he is naturally.
Maybe it's just being a slave to the pedigree, which is unusual for Aidan O'Brien. That wouldn't really be his thing, but
yeah, but that's just one horse in the pedigree, isn't it? Little Big Bear. I don't think the rest of the page are naturally speedy.
True.
And just if you look at him compared to Little Big Bear, that's his brother, Little Big Bear. He's a bay, kind of more stocky, burly horse. Looks definitely like a sprinter just to look at him. This horse looks very different physically to me.
Yeah, there's a couple of jumps horses in that pedigree, and there's a 2-mile winner on the flat as well, Vin Rouge. So yeah, he was kind of the anomaly. He was like the lightning fast one. But they started him out over 5, which he'd looked very good at, first of all. Then it all happened too fast for him at Royal Ascot. So he goes up to 6 at Newmarket, wins. And maybe the automatic thing was, well, his brother won the Phoenix, and we don't really have anything else for this race at the moment. So let's go for that. Whereas
like, they skate quite quick as well, so they really wanted to try their best with it. But I suppose some of the colts have been a bit disappointing. Like Babouche already bet Camille Pizarro. Tunbridge Wells disappointed in cheek pieces, I think, in the railway.
Yeah.
And then Henri looks like he definitely wants 7 or a bit more. He just outstaged the horses the last day, I think. He looks nice colt, but so maybe Whistlejacket was the best of the lot that they had.
Off the top of your head, who do you think Aidan O'Brien's runner in the National Stakes will be?
Well, I did think Henri Matisse looks nice if he steps up another furlong, maybe. But he was the second string that day, the last day, so I'm not sure. His fillies definitely look better than his colts so far. So I don't know if he has a standout so far, does he?
No, I don't think he does. The Parthenon is going to go to Salisbury for a 3-runner race. It's been a small field race over the last few years. I think there's only been one double-figure field for that race in the last 10 years, but it's a 3-runner race this year, so that'll tilt Aidan O'Brien over £5 million in prize money for the season, you would imagine, and he will take another step towards being champion trainer of Britain, which means champion trainer of Britain is an Irish trainer based in Ireland. Champion trainer on the flat is an Irish trainer based in Ireland. That just means everything's going swimmingly well in Ireland, Sarah, doesn't it? Of course. Yeah, don't ask any questions. It's all great. Just consume product and get excited for more product.
Well, I suppose I don't know what I'd like to say about that. I mean, there is a healthy mix of trainers in Ireland. I suppose not in those championship winning races, but if you look at the past Oaks weekends and Derby weekends, there has been a nice mix of Irish trainers picking up the handicaps and the likes. But last Oaks weekend and our Group 1s to date, a lot of them have been going further afield. Oaks weekend was a little bit sobering. Just on the higher scale, a lot of the races going to English Raiders. And then as well, if you look at the maidens over the weekend, I think the maidens on Saturday, I think they were all horses out of Group 1 winning mares. So it just shows the big gap between the sourcing of horses in this country and the likes. But I think the flat, it is better. There is more of a mix of trainers achieving success at different levels, but plenty have proven what they can do, you know.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 classics have gone to British trained horses in Ireland. At least Jessica Harrington was able to come up with Gimme the Beat Boys and actually win one of the sprints here, because they've been a complete whitewash for the British. But suddenly we've got a sprinter that we can hang our hat on. We might talk about him briefly towards the end. You're thinking 7 furlongs so for Whistlejacket going forward. Cheveley Park, it looks like, for Babouche next.
I'd hope so. She looks like that could be her kind of a race. And then, I mean, Ger has another good filly, that Red Letter as well, for the same colours, for the same owners, another good 2-year-old filly. It sounds like he's putting her away with more next year in mind, so maybe he'll be making hay with this filly while he can. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how she does in the Cheveley Park, because am I right in thinking that Ger won his first Group 1 there with Lightning Pearl?
Yes, back in 2011, I think.
Yeah, so he has a good record in the race. Nice to see. He tends to stay at home lately if he can with the horses, but he's well able to win abroad. You know, he's won a Queen Mary as well, Ivors and the like. So, be interesting to know what he's going to do.
Whenever he takes a horse over to the UK, that's almost a tip in itself. He's openly talked about how he would rather go for the Railway Stakes than a 2-year-old race at Royal Ascot.
I think that's fair enough if you're going to. I think there's too much made of people who go over to Royal Ascot just for a runner, like social runner.
Yeah.
I was feeling a bit crazy kind of going to Royal Ascot, and the amount of fanfare Irish trainers get just because they're going to have a runner in Royal Ascot. Never mind that it's going to be 50-1 and it's just there to make up the numbers, but they seem to get pats on the back before they go, just, you know, because they went. Whereas I think Ger's going where he thinks he's going to win. He's not going just, for a social runner. And I think that's to be commended.
Well, to be fair, Adrian Murray did take a social runner to Royal Ascot last year and ended up winning at 125-1, which is just kind of...
Well, we don't know if it's a social runner. He's actually a decent horse. So, I know he's a big price that day. I mean, this Arizona Blaze is quite a big price when he ran in the Norfolk.
Yeah.
And he finished ahead of Whistlejacket that day. So sometimes his horses can tend to get discounted when they go abroad, even though they've proven that they can go and win. I suppose sometimes the running style of them means that you can discount them a wee bit, they seem to be ridden up there regardless of whether it suits or not, which is, I think, what happened here in the Phoenix Stakes. I was a bit disappointed with the choice made to take on Whistlejacket up front on a horse whose stamina was not guaranteed, and I think he is better. He got quite tired towards the end. He is better over 5. Obviously, the instructions were to be up there to make it, and I think he should have sat behind Whistlejacket. He was going quick enough. And they've been doing that a lot lately. I mean, I think that horse did that as well. He did that in the Railway Stakes. He went far too fast up the middle of the track. And that's the reason Henri Matisse stayed on, because Arizona Blaze and the Striking Viking actually cut their throats up front. So that's my only problem with Emma Racing. I think it's good that they're ambitious with the Adrian Murray runners. They're quite ambitious, but I think they need to straighten things out a wee bit.
Well, think about the National Stakes last year. Like, it worked out perfectly for Henry Longfellow, who hasn't really backed up that form since, aside from a good run in the St. James's Palace Stakes.
Very well.
Yeah, and I don't believe for a second that his run at Goodwood the other day was anything like his true running. But my goodness, they just set the race up for him. I don't know what the hell they were doing that day.
Yeah, also, if you're to be up front, it doesn't mean you have to go like a scalded cat. And if you're told to be up front and there's already someone there and they're setting decent fractions, just sit in behind or sit in their tail.
Yeah.
I think you have to think about plan B, plan C, whatever suits. Sometimes even if you have a horse that needs to be up there, it's generally because they're a galloper or they don't quicken, and you want to be to the fore, or they might be too keen elsewhere. But I don't think it should be set in stone that no matter what pace you're going, whether you're going to go 10-second furlongs or not, you need to be up front.
Yeah, I would agree. And it contributed to a fast time for this race overall as well. I'm sure it didn't help Whistlejacket. I think he's beaten on merit and the best horse in the race has ended up winning. But I would imagine at the halfway point, Ryan Moore was probably just going, oh, for God's sakes, get out of my way.
Exactly. I'd say he was cursing under his breath, all right. But the ground was quite quick, so to be fair to Whistlejacket, it probably wouldn't. He was quite brave, I thought. And they were saying that he held his head a bit high, but I think he has naturally high head carriage. Even if you watch him walk in the parade ring, his neck does sit quite high on his shoulders, on his withers. But perhaps he was feeling the ground a wee bit.
I was kicking myself afterwards. It was in my head beforehand that he's not going to like proper good to firm ground.
Whereas Babouche seems to be able to handle quite a range of ground, so that's another exciting thing about her. And she seemed to get there and think she'd done enough as well. So we're not sure how much is left with the filly. She's very exciting.
Well, we'll talk about Sharon in a couple of minutes, because the school of thought would have been he needs soft ground, and then he's rattled home on good to firm ground, no problem whatsoever. So horses can make fools of you. And it could have been the case that at Royal Ascot it just all happened too fast for him over 5, and it wasn't the ground. But I think now it is the ground. He's not been aided up front, but he just doesn't really want to let himself down on good to firm. I'd keep the faith with him, with Whistlejacket. He's not going to be a Little Big Bear, but maybe that's a good thing, because Little Big Bear arguably didn't train on at 3, and maybe he will.
Yeah, the way he's bred, he should, and the way he looks, I think he should train on.
Yeah, you would hope so. Just very briefly on Arizona Blaze and the sire, Sergei Prokofiev, a horse we talked about quite a bit. You and I talked about him when he was racing for Aidan O'Brien. The breeding game is so interesting to me. Here's the son of Scat Daddy. He did all right, did pretty well, but he's not a Coolmore stallion. Witsbury Manor stud for $6,000. He's having a damn good time of things.
Yeah, and for a decent fee, it's quite good. But I wonder what the fee will be next year.
I don't think it'll be $6,000, Sarah Lynam. I think it'll be significantly more than that. Better news for Aidan O'Brien over at Newmarket. This was a great result for the final Furlong podcast, because we were all over Lake Victoria. Backs up the form of her debut against Red Letter, who's gone on to win since. And Sarah was just saying Ger's going to put her away for next season. Great ride from Sean Levy. I liked everything about this performance, including the fact that she had drifted in the morning, drifted in the afternoon, and suddenly the Tabor, somebody's cash came flooding in for her.
Yeah, I thought she was very impressive as well because she had a lot less experience. Her and the Gemma Tutti filly were the two fillies with less experience in the race, and I think she was the first filly in a long time to have won it off just one run. Now, obviously, they've excellent gallops at home in Ballydoyle, and she would have been a bit of a pro, but she was quite keen up front. And then when Sean Levy went for her, she did wander a little bit over to the stand side, possibly looking for the parade ring and the gate. But I thought she did it impressively. The second filly is a good filly, already Group 2 place, probably wants to drop back to 6. But she travelled really eye-catchingly the second, and then she just wasn't able to catch this filly. She did it really nice, and as you say, it's a boost for Red Letter, who was second to her first time out.
Yeah, Mountain Breeze went to a career high on her fourth start, RPR anyway, of 97. She's matched that 97 again, but Lake Victoria had gone to 94 on debut. So that was my point. If she just marginal improvement will take her past the Godolphin filly, and that's what's happened. She's run to an RPR of 105.
She did it the hard way. Well, just because she was a little bit keen and in Sean Levy's hands. I think the way that she was so wayward, she might be better again with, company or a lead. Be interesting to see how she progresses from this.
Yeah, very much so.
Serious bunch of fillies. They're very exciting.
Well, this is my next question for you, because she now has experience of Newmarket, which can be invaluable. They gave that to George Washington on his debut, and it worked out pretty well. They've done that a few times. Obviously, City of Troy winning the Dewhurst, for example. But Aidan O'Brien's 2-year-old filly department is currently made up of Bedtime Story, Fairy Godmother, Truly Enchanting, Dreamy, who I absolutely love, the Niarchos horse, Heaven's Gate, who was a late scratch but was going to run in the Group 1, having won the valuable race the week before. January, you can make a case for. Where does Lake Victoria sit amongst these potential superstars?
She looks a little bit more green than some of the other ones, I'd say. But she has a lot of ability. It's interesting. She's out of Quiet Reflection, and it's just interesting that he stepped her up to 7. She's taken over 7 Furlong filly where the dam was so quick. I think it's interesting. It just shows where the priorities lie in Ballydoyle for these fillies. And it's not a criticism, it's just something I find interesting. They've been running fillies lately out of A Quiet Reflection, Bedtime Stories out of Mecca's Angel. Yeah. Silver Flash the last day she ran against exactly. She was second, and she's out of Heartache, Queen Mary, and a Flying Childers winner. And they're all stepping up these fillies. They're not giving them a chance to prove that they might be sprinters at the start, and perhaps they're not, but I do think Frankel injects them with a little bit more pace than Galileo did with his horses when he was crossed with sprinting mares. So just in relation to the question you were saying earlier about the Irish sprinters, we don't have that many sprinters in that division, but when the biggest yard in the country buys the biggest bloodstock machine in the country, buys all these good sprinting mares, they've no interest in sending them down the sprinting route with their progeny. I just find that interesting. But my favourite of them so far is Fairy Godmother, I must say, because I was at Naas the day she won, and I just love the way, and I don't know how strong that filly's Group 3 was, but she met trouble in running, and she was able to get out of it, no problem. She showed serious turn of foot. And then the same in Royal Ascot. She got Ryan Moore out of trouble. It looked impossible for a while there, and the way she picked up, she's sort of electric, and she's by Night of Thunder, a stallion I really like, and he does give them plenty of speed as well.
I think it was Matt Chapman was interviewing him on ITV, and he just said, I gave her a bad ride and she's got me out of trouble twice.
Yeah, I thought it was odd, like on the telly, they seem to be how did Ryan Moore do that, praising him the whole time. The man is a genius, but he made, she got him out of jail, and all credit to her. It's always the first thing that people do, they praise the jockey, but in this case, the filly did it for him. But I must say, I have a weakness for chestnuts, and so I do really like her. So I might be a wee bit biased, but because I thought she was beautiful at Naas. She's really lovely looking filly. Bedtime Story was very impressive as well at Royal Ascot. I always have it in the back of my mind that she was second string first time out.
Yeah.
And then I thought in the Silver Flash, she didn't. I wasn't too taken with her. I mean, she did it well, but wasn't she 16-1 on?
Oh yeah.
And she sort of into her stablemate. There was nothing particularly eye-catching about it. Now, she got the job done, and she did look very exciting at Royal Ascot, but they are only babies. They're all going to develop at different rates, and they obviously all have the raw ability. Of the rest of them, Heaven's Gate, she's obviously very hardy filly if he's going to run her back so soon after the Ballyhane. And she ran really well on the Albany. It looked like she had it won for a while. She finished third in the end. I was a bit disappointed with her the time after that. I thought she'd win in Newmarket. But and then Truly Enchanting, she's a Group 2 winner. I don't know if she's at the Group 2 standard right now. she's one to watch. She flashed the tail a good bit, I think, when she won her maiden in Tipperary, and then she was hanging quite a bit when she won in the Curragh. Now, I criticised Ryan earlier. That was a serious ride in the Curragh because he's cajoling quite a tricky filly to win. He was very good in her, but no, they all look like they could potentially be top class. So very exciting.
This episode of the Final Furlong podcast is only possible with your support, listening and watching, and with the support of our sponsors. So give me 60 seconds to tell you about Jeff Banks Bet. Betting on horse racing used to be very simple. It was us, the punter, versus them, the bookmakers, the old enemy. But today, betting with online bookmakers is zero fun. Online betting companies promise you the world, but if you have the nerve and the audacity to place a winning bet, they will make you jump through endless hoops just to access your cash. It is not fair and it's not fun. And betting is supposed to be fun. Jeff Banks is different. He's one of the most recognizable faces in British racing. He's got pitches at racecourses all across the United Kingdom. He is a true horse racing fan. And while Jeff very much promotes responsible betting, he is standing up and fighting back against these insane affordability checks. Affordability checks that will destroy the levy and kill British racing. Sign up to jeffbanks.bet right now. Use our promo code FFP500, and not only will you get access to a bookmaker who values your custom, who is a racing fan, but he'll give you best odds guaranteed on British and Irish racing, and he'll give you 10% cash back on net losses after your first month, up to £500. Gamble responsibly, 18 plus only, begambleaware.org. It's tradition refined with modern tech and unbeatable odds. Use our promo code FFP500 and place your bets now with Jeff Banks Bet.
I'm with you on Fairy Godmother. I think she's the best of them. And I think Mountain Breeze is the key. She had no right to win at Royal Ascot, Fairy Godmother. Absolutely no right whatsoever. She's going to be a staying on an unlucky second, and somehow she goes and wins quite easily. But she put further distance between herself and Mountain Breeze than Lake Victoria did. And Lake Victoria basically controlled that race and was able to go and win it as she liked in the end, even though she's quite green. And Mountain Breeze has since had another run. So she's picked up more experience. So that's who she is. Very good filly. I'm sure Charlie Appleby might win a Breeders' Cup race with her. Who knows? But there'll be races to be won with her. And she'll pick up nice group prizes and she'll thrive in America if that's what they choose to do with her. I think Fairy Godmother just has that little bit more. As much as I really like Lake Victoria, it's Fairy Godmother's the one I can't wait for.
I suppose we don't have to pick one. We can enjoy them all, don't we?
It's like that Father Ted thing. Of course, they all have lovely bottoms. All right, we'll move on.
Oh, look at them there, walking around. Look out there, Mary. Doesn't Mary have a lovely bottom?
Careful there, Ted. That might offend the girls.
Rightly. Of course, they all have lovely bottoms.
Very briefly on the other Coolmore 2-year-olds that we saw. I thought Falling Snow was really good. I know she has the benefit of the fact that she's getting weight from ballet slippers, but I have a massive crush on Winter. What an incredible filly for Aidan O'Brien. And she's a daughter of Justify. So Donica looks to have picked up another potential Coolmore superstar filly for him.
Yeah, how did he get that one? I wonder, was Aidan disgusted when it went to Donica instead of him? But
doesn't Aidan get the choice?
They're not going to tell us, are they? I don't know. I presume he does, but I think Donica does get plenty of really well-bred horses, especially lately.
Fancy Blue was very nice.
If I was just a little bit jealous, it seems like he has the boutique collection, the creme de la creme, to start off with. He had plenty of very expensive horses to run in the maidens this weekend too. So, but a lot of them are bought at the sales. But Donica seems to get a lot of really nice homebreds. But he's done right by her. She won a barrier trot, didn't she, at Dundalk, and in quite taking fashion. He said that's just because she'd done plenty at home and she didn't feel she was ready for the races, so he just did it to give her a little bit more experience. And that's why she has no fancy entries right now. I think he's trying to. He didn't enter, so he wouldn't tempt himself from running her back too soon or anything like that. But she looks one to watch.
I think it's really interesting, Sarah, that Coolmore are just almost automatically associated with anything they have that's well-bred. Of course, they're entered for all the top races, but Dreamy doesn't hold any big race entries. There's a number of other 2-year-olds that have come out and won for Aidan O'Brien that don't have any big race entries, or ones that have beautiful pedigrees, but they're not entered for the big races just as of yet.
I suppose with the 2-year-olds, a lot of the races, you don't have to enter too far ahead, and then there's just there are certain ones that are early closers.
Yeah, true.
It gives you more options with the 2-year-olds.
She looks good, though, Falling Snow. That was a brave performance from her, and good to see Justifies continuing to win. I'd imagine, though, Ballet Slippers will be she's a shoo-in for a maiden anyway.
For sure, yeah. No, nice bunch of horses in those maidens. Though at the same time, I'd say some of the horses in behind in the maidens, I'd say people were caught unawares with how quick the ground was. There were plenty of non-runners through the day, and especially with the younger horses, they might have been feeling the ground a bit. So I wouldn't hang my hat on how everything ran in those races. I did notice that there was a Sheila Lavery horse I think had ran well in a barrier trial. Maybe that was the first race he ran in, and he was quite keen, wasn't giving himself much of a chance. And after he ran, she took out the rest of her runners afterwards. So I'd say the ground was very quick. It was a hard day to start out horses, I'd say. Good
point to make. Very briefly on Delacroix. So this horse was backed from even money into 5-2 on. I would not have been happy if I'd had 50 quid to win 20, never mind 5 grand to win 2, with what happened at the start. I was expecting that horse to come out.
Yeah, he seemed to be behaving himself until I think that's the race where Johnny Murta horse didn't want to go in the stalls for a while, and so maybe he was left standing in the stalls for a bit too long, and they weren't sure did he get his leg when he reared up, if he got his leg caught over the other side. So it wasn't going to plan early, but once the stall opened, Ryan was pretty keen to keep it simple and to make all. He was good. It's hard to judge how good he was. I thought he won well, but as I say, I thought there were a few in behind who either weren't behaving themselves or were feeling the ground a wee bit. The second horse that Wayne rode, that was quite an eye catcher.
Acapulco Bay.
Yeah, he's definitely bred to want further, and he was off it early, and he ran on nicely.
A little bit like the horse that Wayne rode on the Line in Winter.
Yeah, the Ides of March was Ides of March the last time.
Difference being the Line in Winter just kept on going and galloped them into submission in the end. But no, I thought this was a really eye-catching performance from him. He'll be a nice one going forward. Pedigree of Delacroix is just stunning. It's like chef's kiss. Dubawi out of Tepin Mare. But we've just also talked about a Frankel, now 2 Dubawis, a Night of Thunder. You can see a pattern developing here, Sarah. It's interesting how Coolmore are changing things with the 2-year-olds they now have.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're top-class stallions they're going to, so they're not taking too much of a risk in that regard.
True.
They have to find successors to Galileo, obviously. To be honest, I'd like to see them supporting the likes of Churchill and Glen Eagles a bit more. I think those horses do well with the mares that they get, especially Glen Eagles. And Churchill as well. He can get them over a variety of trips. They can get sprinters. He can get 10 Furlong Group 1 winners. I think those stallions have a lot of they're passing on a lot of ability to their progeny, but they don't seem to get the same level of race mare as the rest of the horses.
Yeah.
I think it would help, if you're trying to sell a Churchill or a Glen Eagles at the sales, if people know that sometimes Coolmore support those stallions as well, it would be good for business. But listen, who am I to tell John Magner who to send his mares to?
Who is anybody to tell John Magner what to say? I've said this a few times, but I'm pretty certain I said it with you as well, that during COVID, one of the days, something popped up on the Racing Post, the John Magner Zoom call to the Australian breeders, and managed to get to read all about it. And it was him just saying, look, Justifies the future. This is the next big superstar stallion. And I'm not just saying this, I'm going to show you, because all of the top mares at Coolmore that are eligible to go will go to him. And it turns out that John Magner knows a thing or two.
The only thing I don't like is to promote the likes of Justify. They're half mocking the likes of Galileo as well, because, didn't Aidan say Justifies are like Galileos with more class or something? Am I wrong? I think there was a quote like that.
It was in and around that. Yeah. And there was something else as well. Like he's one of the best stallions we've ever had.
Auguste Rodin, because, he doesn't fight tough, he'll make a better stallion because those down and dirty horses don't make good stallions. Things like that. I recall Galileo being quite good in a tussle.
Yeah.
I just think that the new horses, the new shiny toys are being promoted. I'd be a bit sentimental about the good horses they had in the past, and they've done them a lot of good. That's a part of the advertising that I don't like.
You're not suggesting, Sarah, that Coolmore would be engaging in hype to sell a stallion for...
Well, Aidan did say it's good, but he doesn't say things like that, but I beg to differ.
Yeah, I read that in the Racing Post. Yeah, it was a very strong article.
He has been very entertaining lately, I must say.
Oh, yeah, he's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Aidan O'Brien Unleashed is really fun. Like, let's more of that, please. Thank you very much. $150,000 in his first 2 years, $125,000 in 2021, $100K in 2022 and 2023. They were the fees that Sarah was paying to send her mares to Justify at Ashford Stud in Kentucky. Now it's private. So what is it these days?
I know the slave power is a little bit different. Probably why I shouldn't be slagging Justify Pearl slave powers in Chile right now. So.
To be fair, I don't think you did slag him. I think you were just like, hey, maybe don't like disparage Galileo to sell us on Justify.
All the praise at the expense of Galileo.
Yeah, he's doing enough. Like, we're seeing it. The results are there. They speak for themselves, literally. You don't need to be like selling them down the river. Also, after the success of Opera Singer and City of Troy and Remachuel to a certain extent, Capulet winning a Derby trial, anybody who's still saying, I don't know if these Justifies train on, is talking absolute nonsense. To the big winner.
People were saying that in April time. It was like, we hardly had the evidence to hand here.
Sarah, I heard somebody say it again the other day. Like, I don't know if these Justifies train on. Oh my God, that's enough of that. Thank you very much. Stop, move on. Listen to the Due Distance podcast instead. This is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day or therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you've no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you've ever been in therapy, then like me, you know how beneficial it can be. But it's not just for those who've experienced major trauma. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and setting boundaries. Therapy empowers you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a registered therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. With almost 5,000 therapists in the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise. Visit betterhelp.com/Furlong today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Furlong. This is a paid advertisement by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/Furlong to get 10% off your first month and get on your way to being your best self.
The Final Furlong podcast is proudly brought to you by Jeff Banks Bet. Join the excitement and sign up to Jeff Banks online now to get 10% off any net losses returned as cash after your first month of betting up to £500 at jeffbanks.bet.